All right, select board work session, February 28th, 2:30. We are missing one of our members currently, but that is unexpected and sad due to a health issue. So we will move on. It's myself, Dave Hemingway, the chair, and Marlo. So the purpose of today's work session is to look at our policies, or some more of our policies, and make our recommendations for change so that we can get all of those changed policies out and then approve or renew them as appropriate. The first one we are looking at is the appointment procedure policy, and I'm just going through a list as prepared by town admin from the list that we got from our town clerk. So, actually, before we go into this, I want to state that briefly looking through some of these ahead of time. Obviously, some of these are quite old, but and some of them are quite targeted. But it is interesting to me that everyone from past administration, past chairs of the select boards, always told me that all of our policies were on the website. And so that's what I had been operating under belief of. And that's absolutely not true. There's a lot more that I don't think any of us knew about. We just thought there should have been something. And so I just want to put that out as a comment that some of these things we didn't know existed even though we tried to find them. But now we found them, so we're going to deal with them appropriately.
I think the good thing about this review is that we're going to find the ones we didn't really know about. You're going to have a chance to update the ones that should be updated. And I'm going to recommend a few that might be rescinded because I don't see the point of them. And then we will certainly have them on the website as well as our famous code book that I haven't stopped talking about since a long time. But
yeah, once we update anything, we'll definitely have the updated versions on the website, even if the update is only in format, so that we can actually put it on the website easily for you. So with that, the appointment procedure policy. Nothing in here looks particularly of issue, but it's not exactly the way it's been done.
And this is appointment to committees.
Correct.
Yeah.
The thing that I don't see in here that we've been making it a point to do, and I would like to add in or have be a part of this, is the don't come straight to us sort of thing. Like if you want to be on the planning board or the conservation commission, talk to them and have the chair recommend you. And so I think it should come from the board or committee. That's listed as one of the ways to get an acquisition of names, but is not this is the way it should be done. That's in that section 4. So maybe it should be that it is priority is given to those recommended by the chair of a given board, commission, etc. But I don't know if that's really the way to say it, but
I think it's a great idea to involve the chair of the committee. And I think that if the board were to come up with, gee, so-and-so might be a good candidate for that, we could reach out to the board on the chair and go through that.
Maybe it's just that no matter how the name is gotten, they should go through a question and answer or interview sort of thing with the chair of the board they want to serve on.
I always thought it was a good idea and what I've done in the past, but here we're a small town, so you know everybody. But in other places, they would come to the board, or once they've gone through the department, part of it. The chair and the person would come to the board and say, this is John Smith, and he's interested in being on the planning board, and he's interested because he's a certified planner, or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever the background is.
But you were saying the full board though, not just the chair.
I was saying that he would need to have the chair's support. He would need to have that board support. I mean, they don't have to all come in, but I think that even a note from the chair saying that he recommends that this would be a good fit for the thing. So maybe I need to come up with some wording that,
And the thing that I want
I
to
think we're
make
saying the same thing.
Yeah, the one thing that I don't want to do is say that it needs to be a recommendation from the
Thank you,
board chair.
that's what I was just
But
saying.
we should definitely,
Thinking.
there should be an interview with the chair and with the feedback from that submitted before we appoint them.
Some due diligence on the side,
Be-
right?
Because I could absolutely see like an
Mm.
issue of, but I'm trying not to use the Conservation Commission as an example, but I could absolutely see like two people want wildly different views of how to use and
Mhm.
treat the Conservation Commission. And I could see that, well, that's a valid thing, but it doesn't fit with the people that are on the board and or the chair. And like, I wanted to say the same thing with the planning board, but that's a little more like, this is the way it happens unless you're crafting new ordinances. So,
I think it has to be more formal in the sense of, I think what's happened in the past on various boards, and this is certainly understandable, is that it's been very informal.
Mhm.
And, just, we need members, and here's someone that's willing to do it, and naturally you
Mhm.
wanna, you're interested, you want them to help you.
which from any of the boards or for alternates is completely fine. Maybe we make it only for those members that are not alternates. Because the alternates, I don't think, I mean, yes, they can end up being voting members, but oftentimes you're an alternate because you're trying to learn more about it as you show your interest.
And
So-
quite often, I think that department heads would notify us that, gee, so-and-so would like to be appointed to this.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and many times you
And
know. who
normally
it
that's
is,
how
so-
it's worked,
Yeah.
but, I just wanna, I don't want to go down the road of so-and-so doesn't like so-and-so, so
Well,
they
that's
can't
my
possibly
biggest
be on this
concern,
board.
right. Or maybe they don't even agree with their views, but that
Right.
doesn't mean that they're not
So I
gonna
don't
bring
wanna
light to
word it
that.
as approval, but I do wanna make sure that they have to actually go through the process of talking
Mhm.
with them and having the appropriate questions answered.
I questioned the last sentence in section 1.
That makes sense, yeah,
I mean, I know what it's saying.
yeah.
Tell us why you question it, because I wanna make sure that I'm on the same
So
page as
this
you.
was,
I guess I'm
Okay.
thinking, I'm not sure how this board would know
so.
that they fit into that ideal. I mean, what do you say to people who have a different opinion? Or do you say to someone, oh, you have the same opinion as the other 4 members, so this wouldn't be a balanced board? That's just kind of what I'm
So I see this not, like, I see the ideological part put there as we need to make this okay, not because that's what they were targeting.
Okay.
Based on the time frame of this, just looking at who the select board members were, this was during the war of Pillsbury Lake versus the town.
Okay. 'Cause
We
this
are
was
us,
December
you
11th.
are you, we don't wanna help each other or deal with each other.
Mhm.
And so the geographical balance phrasing most likely refers to that they're going to try to not exclude Pillsbury Lake.
Okay. Well, that
Um,
makes sense.
And
So
so
what is
It didn't make sense to me when I read it.
the phrasing is achieve and maintain, shall endeavor to achieve and maintain ideological and geographical balance on boards and committees. And so most likely that's what it
That's good.
was.
That's a good explanation.
Maybe it wasn't, because I wasn't there, but based on the history that I understand, that's my reading of it. I don't think it's a problem to have the wording there, but I don't think it's necessary either.
I'd like to see it go on personally.
The
I think that gets like over ambiguous to a degree.
Yeah,
in my
it
mind.
does make it a challenge, because anyone can always challenge for anything at that point.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think we should get rid of that
Last
line.
sentence.
Mhm. It almost makes it sound like we're like, I don't want to use that word. What's a better word? Just
It sounds like you're stacking the.
well,
committee.
right, or as communism or something. Just like you don't.
I mean, to
you
me,
don't,
but
yeah.
maybe that's just how I take it.
Well, right, and then but you don't.
Yeah, well,
But I know what you're
Yeah.
saying. They were trying to make a point that they want to. We could sit here for hours to try to make points
mhm,
on any policy.
Sure.
right.
So I just think the more direct and straightforward you can be, and that leaves a lot of room for speculation
Right.
and a thought. And what do you think that means there, Dana? Well, I think it means that. So yeah, I say choo-choo.
I want to make it easy for anyone to read
Step
them,
one, step two.
understand
That's
it.
right.
This is what they will do.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, yes, sometimes there's the legal nuances that you have to include in stuff, but
Do you see any other changes needed in section 1?
encouraging.
What do we mean by experienced members?
The thing that I see that should be changed is that right now it says board committee, and it should be board committee commission.
But still, experienced. Who's to decide that? On what somebody's experience is.
Well, it's to maintain, it's, the way it's phrased is to maintain experienced members. So if you've been on the board for a while.
Oh.
It's not like, we think you've got lots of outside experience, we need to maintain you even though you haven't been on the board. It's to help try to make sure that the board and committee, commission, et cetera, can keep running appropriately, because people are there that know how it's supposed to work. So section 2, I'm okay with section 1 otherwise.
Okay, so we're going to add commission in that phrase, and we're going to remove the last sentence.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Section 2 is characteristics of appointees.
Is voting age 18?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't understand why we need to specify over 18 if we're specifying registered voter in town of Webster.
Mm. So I'll delete that 18 years of age.
Yeah, I would say an
phrase.
appointee must be a registered voter of the town of Webster.
Okay.
And was that in the previous one? No. I really hate the whole he, she thing. Just change it to they.
It worked too.
And it's appropriate that way, we cover everyone.
Yeah. It's even more
They
politically
or it?
correct now. So,
You just like his word better, don't you? Is that in the policies? No.
The end of the first phrase in section 2 is, with common sense, and I think that is, like, it's what we would hope, but maybe instead of common sense, it should be like, I don't know, research and logic or something like that, because in theory they're, like, I mean, you go into that in the next line with, oh, sorry, any and all decisions he, she, so that should also be a they. So shall reach must be guided by concern for the common good and based upon the laws and ordinances with the which govern the town of Webster. So maybe we just remove the end of the first sentence, because an appointee must be willing to address each matter brought before them. Before them and the, yeah,
Period.
yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I love the word common sense because I don't think we use enough of that in our world. But,
I wish
but,
we had
but,
more of it in our world.
but I think I know what you're saying is, you know, well, how come you decided to do that? Well, common sense told me to. Like, I think what you're trying to say is when you get appointed to a board, you want them to try to do a little research, make sure that we're following the rules of the
Mhm.
town, and so at that point, somebody's common sense might not agree with the rule.
Well, I mean, you know,
Right.
I think common sense is, and I believe in common sense as well, but I think
Mhm.
when you interview people, you
Yeah.
can tell that.
Yeah,
And it's kinda, to me, it's kind of insulting to say to someone, you
Yeah.
know, if you're gonna be on a thing, you have to have common sense.
yeah. And they're gonna look at you like, no
Well,
kidding,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. But
Yeah. Okay. I'm.
Maybe we say with reason instead of with common sense.
How about, consider each matter, what's the word I'm looking for, thoughtfully,
I-
using the facts or,
In the
yeah.
because
Judiciously?
when you said that,
Judiciously, maybe, that's a good
Yeah.
word, yeah.
but I see what you're
So-
saying.
So willing to thoughtfully address each matter brought before them. Because the next sentence spells out how they're gonna do that. So-
Perfect, okay.
I think people are gonna really appreciate the time we're taking on this. Well, it's like, God, you could sit here all day and.
Mhm.
What's nice about doing these is that there are ones that I had no idea,
Existed.
that I'm breaking.
Right.
The term of appointment one just makes sense to me.
That was fine with me.
Again, that's a board committee commission thing.
Dana, we have the last one
Oh, so you need me?
in the box.
Yes, sir.
All set, Dana.
Okay.
Let's see, acquisition of names. So this is the one that we're gonna have him come up with some other phrasing for, I guess. Like saying that it would be,
One
actually,
that I repaired.
Oh, the same piece?
Yeah, for some reason.
Oh,
Two
I
different
know that's
code numbers.
characteristics,
Same
that's
thing.
not process.
And the one that I repaired. You got that.
Good call. Do you have a slip so I can,
I do.
maybe we'll pay you,
Maybe.
you know?
Yeah, you can just sign the bottom, I'll leave a copy.
Sure.
Interesting that in section 5, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, that they're not set to fill positions at any specific point. It's supposed to be specifically right after town meeting. And that makes some sense to me, because it then allows for
Okay, you have a nice day, Dana.
the select board that's getting voted into town to be involved in also the direction of the town via appointments. Obviously, that doesn't work if some board, committee, or commission doesn't have enough people to work correctly, but I do really like that mannerism for the appointments, making it after the town meeting, and involving the new selected member, voted in by the public to, like, okay, here, now you're gonna know exactly what all the boards, what the people are, how you're getting involved, how they're getting involved, and what each one is doing, and why you're appointing these people. Like, I really like that part of section 5. Did you have thoughts on section 4 for how, or maybe it's added into section 5 for how we're gonna handle the interview, questioning, et cetera, portion?
I think in there somewhere you'd wanna have, rather than, community members can submit their own names, which they could, and then I would connect them with the department, with the
Mhm.
chair, and go it through that way. And maybe I could read little wordsmith there and make it work.
It also says that all potential appointees will be collected by the select board.
Yeah,
And I think that should be town administration.
okay,
How do you like that?
I love it.
Not necessarily town administrator, but town administration,
Assistant.
because that could be
Yeah.
either of
Anyway,
you,
right,
that could
exactly.
be, in theory, that could be Michelle. So they can come down and give the name to somebody, and then it all gets put in and given to whoever the
Well,
appropriate board
I
is.
mean, yes, I mean, there are people that, for example, Michelle and Karen,
Mhm.
if they had someone they wanted appointed as a deputy, for example.
Well, or somebody that, I'm not even thinking of that, but like, somebody might come down when the clerk's office is open, but the rest of, the administration isn't. And so they could drop off a name saying, yeah, I'm interested in being appointed to the planning board. And so she might get a name for that then she can forward along. Like, I don't see a problem with that. I
Oh, I
guess,
don't either, yeah.
I guess that's more though,
I mean, basically, in that case,
it still has to be collected
it
in
would
one
come
place,
to
so it
us.
still come to
Yeah,
you. So,
yeah.
so yeah, town administration, I think, is the appropriate phrasing there. Let's see. Potential shall volunteer interest form, yep. It says, and may be required to meet with the select board during the consideration process. I would say, and would be, because we don't necessarily, they don't necessarily all need to come to the select board. Maybe that's where we put, instead of, and may be required to meet with the select board during the consideration process.
I think the
Maybe
only,
it's, and will be required to discuss the position with the chair of the respective board chair committee, etc.
the only thing that, and so you can correct me if I'm wrong, that might be contradicting a little bit is the fact that when whoever becomes a select board, and that's when you want to be part of some of the decisions or people, the candidates to become in front of them, we may want to, and as we're elected to be, in our positions, we may want to not be part of, which I think you're saying, but I don't know how you decipher, that one has to or that one doesn't. Do you see what
That's
I'm saying?
true.
Do you see, because we just kind of got done saying that the one reason that we'd want the people us to have a say in it is because been elected by the town to be in our positions.
And yeah, and at the same time, like, I was thinking, well, some of them might just have their board's chair come up and say, yeah, we want this person because so-and-so, or such and such reason. But I think it's a valid point, and based on the appointment schedule, doing it shortly after town meeting, I think if it were set as a, yearly, this is when we're going to do this, unless there's a position that needs to be filled. I think doing it that way and saying that they would be required to meet with the chair of the board they're interested in, and then to show up at that meeting, for the
If
appointment.
necessary, or just,
The more I think about it, if necessary, shouldn't be there. They
Right.
should come to the meeting and proclaim why they want to be there.
Okay,
I
perfect.
mean, granted, we have that on
Which is
paper.
what I was kind of saying,
Like,
but.
we have that on paper, so like we could read that on paper and,
Mhm.
you know, that's fine most of the time so far, but, people should also know who are going to serve them, so.
Yeah.
So, well, how would you like that worded then?
Let's see. All potential volunteers shall complete the town of and will be required to meet with the board committee commission chair during the consideration process. Recommended appointees will be required to come to the appointment meeting. So, I mean, I don't want to overburden, you know, anybody that wants to volunteer.
Absolutely not. I
But
know
at
that's
the
the only
same
thing you said
time,
there going, oh my
coming for
God.
5 minutes to one of our meetings shouldn't, to say, you know, I want to do
And
this,
this is, yeah.
shouldn't be a burden.
I never realized how well you can hear next door and hear.
Mm.
One time I was in there. I might have been shushed.
Let's see.
You, Marlo,
And I can
believe
see
it.
why. It's weird how it echoes.
Yeah, it does.
Just funny.
It's amazing how quiet the building is.
Do we
when-
need to change anything for section 5?
I keep flipping my paper over thinking we're done. We're looking for you.
Oh, do we need to
I-
change
yeah,
it? Oh, I'm
section
sorry.
5. I guess, I mean, I don't see
I don't see
anything, but-
anything wrong with section 5.
I think it looks okay. The one thing that I'm not completely sure with how that's being done in there is, like, does someone basically get put on a list of nobody and then taken off it immediately when, you know, there's a position that needs to be filled and we're canvassing and hoping someone steps up?
I think it would be delightful to have a list, first of all.
Yes.
But.
We are saying volunteer.
Right. Well, and that's why, like, should there be a, like, is this something where we're actually keeping a list? Is it?
We're
is it
not
an ordered
now, but we
list?
certainly
Is
could.
it-
You know, if we happen to have people that were interested on a committee that didn't have an opening, for example,
Mhm.
I would still refer them to the chair.
Right.
And then if it came back, if we could keep them, and so the chair could contact them if there was ever
Are there,
an opening.
there are openings at least for alternates on every single board chair committee, aren't there?
For planning board, ZBA, I think so, and the Conservation Commission, I think, has alternates, but I think that's more of a quasi-judicial board thing rather than a regular committee.
Do we have, is there a limit to alternates?
Well, there is for the planning board and
That's what
there
I
is
thought.
for the ZBA.
Yeah.
I think there also is for the Conservation Commission as well,
Yep.
but those ones are set up in state law, and I think those are a little different than subcommittees formed by the select board.
Mm.
Right.
So,
I mean, I think the alternate idea is great if the regular positions are filled, because certainly you learn a lot
Mm-hmm.
by being an alternate. And speaking from experience, you start out as an alternate thinking you're gonna arrive once every blue moon, and then all of a sudden you're on the committee.
I have no idea how I got here.
Right.
But,
Well, it's just supposed to be that little guy that shows up
Yeah.
every other time.
Yeah, I'm here because I showed up to, you know, answer some questions at a energy committee meeting and
yeah,
then became a planning board alternate and
that'll show you.
then the planning board and then I got sucked into this.
I think I would like to reword
good.
that though, that rather than have it say those people who don't actually receive,
Yeah.
something about, applicants or who are interested in boards that, if there's no openings on the board, I've got to wordsmith this a little bit, but
Applicants to,
will be put on a list.
I don't know, I don't want to use the word full, but applicants to full boards.
Yeah, yeah.
Would be put on the list. All right. I think that's good enough there.
Okay.
Yay, on to check disbursement policy. I see almost no issue in this, but I do see one issue. And that's that we will review and approve submitted payroll manifests at the regularly scheduled bi-weekly meetings. A, we're not doing bi-weekly meetings anymore, and B, sometimes we're off schedule from that. And the checks approved at meetings will be available to payees immediately. Everything's direct deposit for the most part, unless it's something that's being sent out for non-payroll. So I would suggest that rather than wording it this way, like we should think about a way to word that appropriately. Like we will review and approve at least every 2 weeks or something of that nature.
Or even
Within
say
2 weeks.
something like, the board will review and approve all payable manifests prior to checks being released.
Right. I thought we had that already, but
I thought with payroll it had to go when it had to
Payroll's a
go.
different animal,
Isn't
you
it?
know, yes, payroll has to go.
yes, I mean, the first one is all printed and signed checks will be withheld for disbursement until such
Oh, I'm
time that
sorry,
the select
yeah.
board has
Maybe
reviewed
that's where I
and
got
approved
that
the
word.
prepared manifest. And so,
Do you need that second section?
no, I don't think we do. I mean,
I mean, that says that.
the only thing that, the problem with just flat out removing it is that it then does not put any guarantee in that we will look at it in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to make sure that the policy has a guarantee that we'll look at it in a timely
So
manner.
put it right up to the top and take that section out.
We could put something like, you'll review and approve the payable manifests for the bi-weekly check run or something like that.
Yeah,
You're just kind of combining these two lines in a sense and getting rid of like saying it twice
mhm.
Yeah.
anyway.
And this is one where, like, I understand why it's there, but at the same time, I don't see any specific, well, I guess, so the last line, the select board reserves the right to waive any provision of this policy as circumstances warrant. Like, normally that would be, you don't want that in a policy like this, because, like, it's one really simple thing, but at the same time, that's why we're not in violation of it already. Because we've changed the structure that this was designed for, and so that structure isn't there anymore. Had we known about this policy, we should have just looked at and changed the policy at the same time, but,
The last thing is saying to me that an emergency comes along. And
That's
we don't,
fair.
And we don't have the time to get the board together to discuss. I mean, obviously, anything that happened, I'm gonna discuss it with you. And I've only had that happen in 30 years, maybe, two times.
yeah, twice. All right,
But
so,
you don't want to sit there with your,
You know, it involved a flood. I mean, you know, I couldn't very well say, geez, I'm sorry, you know.
I'm not going to write you a check for that.
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Maybe we could, I mean, if you're not comfortable with that statement, maybe we could word it in the event of an emergency. transaction.
I mean, I personally don't mind it, I just don't see a real need for it, and I know that at least some of our constituents will have a problem with the phrasing. And so, for the
Yeah, because
purposes
it
of trying
sounds
to
like,
make it.
okay, we have a policy, but it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for the purposes of trying to make it more specific, one of the things that we could do for that is the same thing that I suggested we do with some of the others, like the property policy, which is if you're gonna do waive provisions, you have to say why. And so that has to be a
Oh, yeah,
stated
noted,
thing.
noted.
Okay, so how about the select board reserves the right to waive any provision for just cause? Or for,
Any provision
written.
of this policy.
If you do it, it has to be mentioned in the minutes of why the justification.
yeah, that's
With-
kind of
With,
where,
with justification noted in the minutes.
okay. That may not solve our emergency flood problem.
Well, it would, because when you come back to the board after the fact, you would note the reason why you didn't do it that way in the minutes.
Fair, okay.
So, so yeah, I think we just get rid of the second paragraph. Right.
What did you want the first paragraph to say?
I don't know that it even needs to change.
Okay.
Thought you were worried about timely manner.
Yeah, the timeliness is the part, I'm wondering
I'm
if we
paying
just need to
attention.
put an added, like an extra sentence in.
Yeah, that's what I was
Um,
thinking.
Mhm. Okay.
Maybe it's, maybe we do it with, after the first sentence, and, select board has reviewed and approved the prepared manifest within 2 weeks. I mean, that's kind of saying the same thing, but it doesn't say that, you know, this
Well, it
is
just
the
doesn't-
specific way it has to happen.
And it doesn't let us say, oh, well, I wanna do that 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're
I
kinda
don't
just-
feel like dealing with that payment, so we're just not gonna look at it.
Right, that's
Mhm.
that, right.
Mhm.
No, that's what I do.
Oh, I don't have to look at that this week, I'll just look at it next, but yeah, no, I mean, you just wouldn't want, you know, oh, I don't feel like meeting this week and then people not getting paid when they're supposed to
Right,
get
yeah.
paid. Cause there's no policy saying that they have to.
Mhm.
Radio?
All right. Anything else on that one?
Mm-mm,
All
move
right.
on.
Moves us to delegation of deposit authority. And I'm just gonna say, Dana, tell us about this one.
Oh,
You
good,
know,
thank you, 'cause I was-
This is, I mean,
I mean, it seems
basically,
like this is
it's,
in other
it goes
stuff.
with what the law says.
Mm-hmm.
I think what is important in this one is that the person going to the bank needs to be bonded, which would be Karen King, Michelle, both Michelles, but not Wendy, Russ, and I, for example. And that's what the law says, and I think it's a good one.
So you can't take a deposit to the bank from the town because
I
you're
really
not,
shouldn't.
you shouldn't.
I mean, you know, I really
you're not
shouldn't,
bonded.
because if something happened,
You mean in case you kept on driving or something?
well, no, I'm just thinking in case I decided to drive off with the deposit.
Well, that's what I say, just keep on driving.
Yeah, I'll keep on driving, yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, our cash deposits aren't very much.
so it wouldn't be worth to keep on
I
driving.
mean, what I did before, I didn't do this direct bank deposit thing. Well, that's a good point, because Wendy does do that.
There's a lot of that happening
How,
now.
which is checks.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that is, it's not going to the bank per se, but it's depositing checks. I used to just write deposit slips and give it to Michelle when she went to the bank, she deposited it.
Yeah. Cause she's bonded.
Right, well,
Huh.
and also, I don't wanna drive over to Boston.
Well, I know, that's,
But, you
I
know,
I always love giving that job up.
But I think it's a good policy, and it's a policy that basically if you didn't have it, the law says the same thing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it is important about you wanna make sure that you have someone who's bonded.
I never
And so
knew that.
Webster tax collector, Webster town clerk, and their respective deputies, financial administrator, and the administrative assistant of the funds they collect in their responsive roles. So that really does cover everybody in this office, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe it shouldn't be that broad.
We haven't had a problem with it, so maybe we
Yeah.
don't need to really fix something that's not broken, but.
I- Yeah, I say, at the end of the day, I mean, I think you're actually triple
This
catching
authority
yourself
shall remain
myself.
in effect until rescinded by written notice of the Webster Town Treasurer. So, in going with that, I mean, this is a fairly ancient policy at this point, but I can't imagine that the law has changed much, if any. The
And this is a good one to talk to Michelle Tremblay
I
about.
would say, you know, ask her if she has any input, wants it changed or not. And if she tells us that she'd like it to be reaffirmed as is or with a specific change, bring that to us and then we can finish that up.
Okay.
So I don't see anything specific that like really needs to be changed in it.
Mhm.
I question whether, like, I think we've gotten in the, like, investment fiduciary, et cetera, policy someplace. Question maybe this should just be a section in that instead of
Having a separate.
separate, but it's fine either way.
Mhm.
All right, that brings us to the emailed efficiency statement,
I think this is my favorite.
which I don't need, like, I see that there's things and recommendations to be followed, but I don't see an actual policy, though maybe it has been stated as a policy.
I
This
think
is
this one should
basically,
go.
this is basically how the town office runs, and I think it's very specific to maybe some issues that were happening at the time, but it doesn't even look like a policy to me, so.
I agree. I don't see a need for it.
I mean, there's a couple things in here that are, you know, post office trips will be minimized and,
You know,
And-
my office door would be closed, or would be
You know,
sequestered, you know,
like-
that, it's.
yeah.
it's-
Whatever, because I remember when the town, is it, well, yeah, it probably is in the minutes somewhere, but it was a 5 to 8 a week, you know, town office, and then it got changed, and is that how this came up?
Maybe, I don't know.
Could be. So I'm in favor of rescinding this entirely, since I don't think it's even set up as a policy. I
And,
would, however, suggest that we that you keep a note of this for specific things like, say, post office trips to be minimized and so on, for some sort of like general operating procedure when eventually, hopefully, we can get to that.
mhm.
Because
But-
isn't this kind of part of your,
Yeah,
Job?
this is more like operating procedure,
Right.
as
Yeah,
you mentioned,
I was gonna
rather
say.
than, yeah.
because
Rather
this, it
than
would be up
policy.
to you to
Right.
say, hey,
Mhm.
why are you going to the post office for the 5th time
Right.
today?
Ru-
What's
Russ-
up there that we don't know about? Should we go with you?
Russ, can I see your register of who came into the
That's
town
right,
office and what they
yes.
wanted? I mean,
Well, they wanted to register their cars and pay their taxes.
Oh my God, off with the scalpel.
I just want to register my taxes
Which
and get
also-
paid for my cars.
If somebody,
I also like number 5, that you're going to be taking responsibility for checking time cards bi-weekly.
Oh, we haven't done any of that.
I don't think you want
No.
No, I mean, that's why we have a town administrator.
Well, because who are we to say, why did that person do that? I'd look at you and I'd say, Dana,
Yeah. I mean, I look at the board as,
that's why
the
we hire you.
policymakers
Mm-hmm.
and not,
And along with that whole, post office trips will be minimized, not just because of the timing and stuff and that there's actually a mailbox, but whether it's a post office run, a bank run, et cetera, I'd just say that mileage and reimbursement mileage should be kept to a minimum. Because we don't need everybody to run out like in the middle of the day to go out and come back and so on and so forth. We're not that much of a time crunch in this town. So,
No,
but again, general operating procedure,
but isn't that,
not
that's kinda,
policy.
is that that's kinda what you do?
yeah,
though,
I mean,
right?
I think we're careful with that. I have to pay Russ tomorrow to go to Warner, so, anyway.
I'm not going to Warren. Well,
Yeah, sure, you're getting the town report tomorrow.
but I'm doing it on my way in.
Oh, all right, are you doing it for free?
I mean, I thought I didn't get billed until I got to work. I mean, I guess I could count Warner as work and then from
The-
Warner to the town hall.
The way that at least existing
Sounds like
policies in the past
That's
were
what I was
written,
saying. I didn't care.
I don't bother
Yeah.
with it either because it's
I,
too much.
I
work.
wouldn't because it's annoying, but the way previous policies were written is that if you're doing something on the way to or from work, you can count the extra miles that it cost you to go to or from work.
So it would be from Warner.
So like 5 miles.
Well, it would be Warner to the town office because
Yeah.
I
something
don't
like
go to
that.
Warner when
Or
I go
from
to
exit
work.
7 to exit 9,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Stuff like that.
So it's like, okay, you get like $3, but
Yeah. I only charged for mileage when I was showing our real estate stuff.
I mean, on a note of having this, been part of this over my lovely owning our own business, there is times people take advantage of it, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, and we always like, you get a little, you give a little, take a little, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's supposed to be that, well, common sense fine line.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we also don't wanna take the power away from somebody paying attention to it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
In case sometimes it's always great, and this is probably why policies come about, which I'm not the best at myself, but you get that one person, that takes it to another, and then
Well, I think that's why this came about. I mean.
yeah, oh, I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure. No, I'm not, yeah. Jesus, you just sometimes, there could be a policy on how you tie your shoes.
Sure, yeah.
Because if you don't do it right and you trip, then that could be liability.
must be done with a cross triple knot.
That's right, yeah, right.
Oh, already violating policy.
Yeah. Go outside
How
and
about
tie
I
'em
get
again.
Velcro shoes?
Yeah, right.
Can you tie them?
God, don't laugh, that could be next, but yeah.
I'm
So-
gonna apply for a waiver.
I guess I just, right, like you pointed out, these probably had a point at the time. I just wouldn't want to also make sure that in case one of us is not here anymore, that something new doesn't come in and then that's gotta come back into play. How do we
Well,
make sure
because you
of
never
that?
can, a future board can do it.
Yeah.
Whatever they want.
Yeah.
No, what I mean by that is like I feel like it's already in your
Mhm.
policies and procedures as somebody running.
Right.
Everybody's got to answer somebody, right?
Well, it's the whole general operating procedure.
Right, right.
Eventually we'll get a document for.
Okay, so that's what we'll be
Yeah, it's
we
more,
keep
it's
them a
more
little
general
busy.
than it is a
Yeah.
policy. And I feel the next one is in a very similar boat.
So the next one is the incoming document management policy. Let's see here. So 91A and 33A. I don't remember which one is 33A.
I don't know, what is 33?
Is 33?
Oh, good, 'cause I
is
wanted to
33 the document retention?
I have no idea. No, that isn't.
I'm curious.
Because that would also be in 91A.
Forwarded. Complaints about a department head should be forwarded to the select board. Anonymous documents referencing a safety or criminal concern will be
Oh, it
forwarded
is
to the
a
appropriate
record one.
department head for resolution. That was actually an issue. People would leave anonymously. People would anonymously leave documents against specific police and board personnel at other board members' houses. At least from the stories I've been told. Has not happened to me. I've been warned that it would happen by some of the people that targeted, and it has not. But management of the documents will comply with the department's document policy.
I mean, we already have that in the record contention.
Anonymous documents that are not of a safety or criminal concern will be delivered to the select board, which shall be responsible for the proper disposition of the document.
What now?
Maybe this,
Never mind.
33A was repealed in 1977.
oh, okay.
What was it?
It was a record
It talked
retention.
about municipal documents.
Oh,
So it was the
Basically,
old
it was the
record
same,
retention.
it was kind of the same, what we still have.
So, I mean,
That's an old
To-
policy.
to me, anything that's incoming document would be part of document retention policy,
Which is, yeah.
which is also 91A stuff,
Well,
so,
that's where it all is now.
oh.
Yeah.
But apparently that was what it was in the 70s,
I
was
think
the
so.
33A.
Yeah.
I
so-
think that's also a kind of a operating.
so I would suggest that we rescind this one since it's in the new document retention policy. Do we need to make motions and stuff on the rescinds?
And I'm gonna bring these to you at a meeting to make it,
Okay.
well, a regular meeting.
Mhm.
And we'll just try to bring Dee up to speed.
And that way, it will be efficient.
Well, I mean, we'll wanna tell people anyway when we're there, but
Oh.
we're
Are we
gonna
doing this now?
we're gonna rescind the, well, yeah, but I mean, at the public meeting instead of the work session. Cause no one's gonna look at this, let's be fair.
I mean, yeah, and you could have a reason for it. I mean,
Okay.
But, you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna rescind this because of this because of this, and so here's our motion to do it, and like, I think that's fine.
And you'll have that all ready for us.
I will, of
And-
course.
And the next one will of course have been a targeted thing, but I also think it's a perfectly fine and reasonable thing to be here, which is the disciplinary procedures for the police chief.
My only thing with this is that I don't see why it needs to be a policy.
I don't know why it's not in the contract.
I mean, it's,
True.
obviously, if you had a situation
It
like
would be
this,
contracted stuff,
you know, if you had a situation
and
like this,
RSAs.
you're going to proceed how they suggest, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's just I think it's unfortunate that that's in here. And I imagine there was
An issue.
an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this
And
is,
there again, we
this
never
is-
want to get too cocky. There's not gonna ever be an issue again, but
No.
This,
but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
this, the whole reason for this, and again, this isn't even a policy; it's procedures.
Yeah.
But the whole reason that this existed is why we have Steve now as the chief. So, like, there were specific issues they were trying to address with it, and probably legally recommended to do it this route by their legal counsel. So
I just think if you had an issue, you would call your attorney, and you
Mhm.
would say, what should I do? And they would give you, we know the steps, but they would back you up. You always want to have the attorney involved with personnel stuff. Especially if you're, may
But, like,
terminate someone.
in this, they're citing RSAs anyway. So, like, if they're just using RSAs, and they're basically adding a couple things from the personnel policy to which they can't target a police chief anyway with personnel policy based on the contracts and the RSAs. So,
Maybe that's what I object about it. It's targeting any employee who had something like this
Mm.
going on. There'd be a procedure.
right, which is in the
You know,
personnel
and-
policy.
yeah, not just pointing out
But-
one
Right,
person.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's specific that the personnel policy does not apply to the police chief. And that's both in the
That's probably why
RSAs
this is here.
and the contract.
Yeah.
And so that may be why this exists, in
Mhm.
order to make that okay
Mhm.
for them. And so, like, I don't think our current chief is gonna care one way or another what we do with this, cause it's,
Oh, I don't think.
we're not gonna have a problem.
Right. I
Well,
don't-
and,
but
and,
at the
and
same
most,
time-
and most of the time, if you're not, unless there's something you're
You know, I would,
doing,
I would
Like
suggest, request comment from the chief if what he thinks about the legal grounds of this. Because he's had that insight, like when we were talking about contracts and stuff.
That's good like that. Yeah.
And then, based on what he says, we can also, if we believe it needs to be done, also then ask legal. Like, do we need to get rid of this? Is this even legal, etc.? Or is this the way that makes it okay for if we have problems in the future, so
Yeah.
we should keep it?
Yeah.
But I think we should ask the two of them before we try to do anything to that policy. Any other thoughts on it?
no, I mean,
Investment policy.
You reaffirmed this.
I thought we did.
February 8th of 21.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything in there that,
I don't see any listing of the reaffirmation.
in here it does say something about, reviewing it on an annual basis, which is, at the time, the treasurer asked you to review it and update it, so I'm sure that's why he asked. I don't really see that it needs to be done annually, unless this changes. The laws are specific of where you can invest money.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if we just reaffirmed it, I wouldn't suggest that we change anything, other than maybe the timing of reaffirming
So
it
it's
with
about a
everything
year ago
else.
you did it, you know.
So, yeah, I would suggest that we just do another reaffirmation at the same time as we do all the others, unless there's something that, you know, the treasurer thinks needs to be changed.
And
Or
that
the-
would-
or
this would be
the,
a good one for
um,
the treasurer to look at as well.
Treasurer and, this is also investments, right?
mhm.
Yeah, so treasurer or the,
Trustees.
trustees. So
They
that-
have their own investment policy actually, which you'll get.
Oh, so this doesn't even apply to them?
Not really.
Okay. I wonder if we can combine them and make them easier.
You know, I mean, theirs is a, you know, this is. I guess I better not mention what I think is different.
Okay.
You know, just because I might not say it right, but their investments are a little more, they're getting the advice of the bank, and actually I think they're doing CDs really.
Probably.
You know, rather than, investing in pork bellies,
Mhm.
things like that.
So that moves us to the live streaming and video recording policy.
And that was June 21st of last
And,
year.
and we've made motions to change this a few times, but I don't see any of that reflected here.
Oh, we have? Oh.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so.
Do you have an update on that?
We would have to do an update, and then there was a couple other things I would like to add to it too.
Okay, so
So we need to,
what's
we'll bring this
listed-
back to you, is that?
so, yeah, so what's listed here, to briefly go over the things I'm remembering, is that everything will be live streamed, and then, public meetings that aren't there will be recorded. And I think we need to change it, because we're certainly trying to live stream everything, but not everything actually goes out on a stream. So I think we should say that, live streaming will be attempted when possible, all the time.
Mhm.
Video recording will happen, and if the stream is not there, then the video gets uploaded, by the time the minutes are required. So that gives us, 5 or so business days, etc. That way it's not like throwing extreme burden on somebody, like, no, I need it right now. but yet, you know, it needs to be timely to be worth anything.
Right.
Plus, I could just go look it up.
But we also said that, and voted to not have the checklist meetings included.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
You
voted
did
to
that.
do no audio for
Voting.
voting.
Well, that just happened.
So is it, when you say no audio, do you mean that you,
Just when you're voting, we'll have
Like the standard,
cameras.
the standard poll, when the polls are open for normal voting.
Oh, I
would
see.
you be able to record a,
Well, we're not gonna record it, we'll just stream it, because there's no way it's gonna fit on the device.
Yeah, we'll just.
but without
stream it.
any sound?
Without any sound, so
Correct.
we just don't plug in the
Is what you're saying.
microphone.
Yeah,
Okay.
no mic.
And
That
then
was the
there,
big thing. Right?
and there was a
The
couple
sound.
of things I wanted to add, like,
Okay.
who's responsible for starting the video? So
Hmm.
the committee chair is responsible for starting the video,
Committee
Or-
chair or designate.
or designate.
Mhm.
Is that Russ?
Everything for us.
It's on the meeting. And there was I want to start the list of exemptions so that when exemptions can be added as the board votes it. For example, the no audio during voting or the supervisor checklist meetings are exempt. And we'll put those in there.
Mhm.
And then we'll keep a running list. And there was one other thing I wanted to mention. I forgot.
I would like that list to include a brief description of why it's exempt.
That's fine.
I'm just thinking of the words you could use.
Why, I mean, and I'm not trying to be fresh here, but I'm just saying, why is the checklist, why was that decided not
So-
to?
So the checklist folks didn't want to have it, but their reasoning was that they were using and stating facts that are personal information that are not part of the public record, which is the checklist.
Okay, so that's what I
But
wanted.
And-
to put in.
and granted-
give an
Makes
example.
sense.
Give an example.
So,
So I go to check in, I'm going to the person on the checklist, right? And they say, Marlo Herrick, and then your address? Is that what you, is that?
so your name and address are part of the checklist.
Yeah.
Someone can request that information.
Okay,
That's on there.
okay.
But for example, if someone's looking like, do you have a valid driver's license? Is your something else
Oh.
valid instead?
Oh,
You know, you have X insurance at location Y to prove that you're a resident.
why do you not have a license? No, I'm just kidding.
Those sorts of things.
I remember.
There are ways that they can and should handle them. Like, for example, if other public are here, it is a public meeting, they should do it that way anyway. However, in the best interest of all of our constituents, because of the nature of things like YouTube, whether or not it's public documentation doesn't mean we need to tell all of YouTube about it.
That's right. No, and I could, now that I think about it, now I could see just stuff that
Okay,
is
I
not,
just wanted to kind of have an idea, I mean, you know, I didn't
Not
want
on
to just
no-
say because
none
I
of
don't want
anybody's
it. Yeah,
business.
yeah.
Right.
And I
Can you put
remembered
that?
the last thing. The priority list, since we only have one piece of equipment,
Mm,
who has priority over what?
yeah.
For example, select board, ZBA, and planning board have the highest priority.
I was gonna say, we're number one.
Well, it depends.
I'm like,
I would actually suggest that ZBA would be the number
Number
one
one.
priority.
now how come?
ZBA is the most judicial, making
And they only ever
Rules
meet
and
if it's a
regs.
public hearing.
right.
Okay.
I would state that public hearings have first priority in the order of.
Yeah.
And.
So you do the orders and commission, and then say public hearings take priority
Mhm.
for every grouping.
Yep.
So I'll do a tier system. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3.
Yeah. But, so we should write this to include both the exclusion list and priority list as appendixes. Then they can easily be updated when needed.
That's something I gotta work on.
But fortunately, this is actually a typed document that's recent, so that shouldn't
Right.
be too bad.
That is
Oh, some of
great.
these you might have to retype.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That moves us on to the policy for use of police cruisers.
We should have a policy for creating policies.
Yeah.
Which can
Oh
only
my
be
God, this is
updated
what
by
we're
right
going
of
to-
policy from committee.
Oh my God. This is sometimes interesting. Why wouldn't this fall under policies and procedures?
This exists as a policy
While in
because,
fresh pursuit, I like that.
this exists as a policy because certain people were just using the cruiser all the time as their daily driver for everything.
Mhm.
I get this. Yep.
So,
Yeah, this
But-
makes sense. Probably that's a good thing for the chief, though, to look at.
yeah, I would say, I don't see anything specific that needs to change, but run it by the chief.
Well, because sometimes when he makes deals,
You know.
right?
Hmm?
Well, he could say to somebody, oh, I should read this a little bit fuller before I run my typo.
In the last sentence, you waive the right to waive any provision.
But that's the select board, not the
Right,
chief.
Right.
And that's another one where, with reason noted in minutes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, no.
Should the board
The
vote on?
taxation thing is interesting. And if you are allowing someone to use, which you're not, so I think we stay
Right.
clear of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I was gonna say, is should we have a vote to go against, use that line? So
Mhm.
when you make a motion to exempt it,
it would require a motion and
I'm
notes in
just-
the minutes.
yeah, that way you get a clear
I-
vote of who
I
voted.
like that idea.
I thought that made sense.
Voted and noted?
Voted
Yes.
and noted.
Okay.
So anytime you see that phrasing in anything, just expect that that's the way we will, at least that I want it changed.
Okay, I hear you.
I assume Marlo thinks similarly based on previous comments, but
Mm-hmm.
just makes sense. All right, that moves us to the on-call policy for the police department, which again it had to address something specific at a previous time.
Yeah, it's another good one for the chief to take a look at.
Yeah,
It's a little redundant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
like I would expect any of this to be in a contract, but at the same time, you don't want to be able to just allow open-ended contracts to not have a policy that they need to follow or so
Mhm.
on, so.
I don't know why these couldn't be combined. If
Mhm.
once you talk to the chief, he wants to,
Yeah.
or we can have another further discussion about it, but why wouldn't you combine, why would you need these separate?
Yeah,
Is
the
there
only
something
thing I
I'm
can
missing?
think of is that it was a combination of targeting people and
Oh,
of legal saying that you're gonna have a problem with taxable benefits because of the way that it's being done. Like, that, I can only imagine that that must have been the way. There are some people there that made these policies happen that could probably give us further context. And maybe it's worth asking them if they would like to provide any further context as well.
Okay. I can do that.
All right, policy to obtain copies of public records.
We know this.
Yeah. This is just saying that 91A exists, and like, I don't know why this even needs to be here.
I don't even think.
Especially when it says that they reserve the right to waive the provisions of it. It's like, no, you can't waive 91A.
You might reserve it, but it doesn't seem to work.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that I can think of that that wording would apply to is the last sentence, which is any person requesting a copy may be charged a fee set by the board pursuant to RSA 41(9)(a).
I don't know, that, it says a fee, and if you don't pay the fee, you don't get it, but,
Yeah. Well, so then my point is that that last line of being able to waive is to say, we'll give it to you without a fee.
oh, okay.
So, but at this point, like, I don't think we have copies listed on our fee schedule anymore.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
copies on it.
So, I mean, we probably don't charge people for a couple pages, but you know, if we've got copies listed on our fee schedule, then this doesn't need to exist because it's 91A.
Yeah, by and large, I don't really remember making any copies for anybody. It's
Well, it
all-
depends on the
it's been
volume
an
of
electronic.
copies.
I've emailed to them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, most people are asking for electronic copies anyway, and especially once we have the records retention system and digitization, then they just come like, okay, it's here on the computer,
Yeah.
but am I missing something?
No,
Okay.
or I don't think you are. I'm not telling you what to do, but I don't think you need this policy.
All right. But any?
No, I,
And
I
I think that,
feel
I
like
mean,
some
and I
of these-
appreciate if you allow us to make the decision whether we're gonna get 20 cents from someone or not for a copy. I mean, I just think that's splitting atoms.
Maybe we just make it, you know, I hope we don't have to do a separate policy for the fee schedule stuff, but maybe it's, you know, if it's less than $1, just no one cares.
Well, and if it's being requested by a resident taxpayer, that's different to me than if you have an attorney. I mean, you know, we did have an attorney
Mhm.
with items, and we did charge him for copies.
The other thing though,
Well, he was also requesting a lot of documents. It's
right,
not
and
like-
so that's the other thing, like
Right.
if someone comes in and requests, you know, like, I wanna see the wetlands ordinance that's coming, and I haven't been able to bring it up, or whatever. You know, it's a few pages, it's fine, it's not a big deal, and we wanna help them out. But if someone.
Gee, Russ just charged someone $15.
If someone comes in and, you know, once we've got all of this done, if someone comes in and says, you know, I want a printed copy of all of the policies and ordinance, that's hundreds of pages.
Right.
so could we have a limit?
And then I lost the book, and it's 3 months later,
Yeah,
I want all
yeah.
of that again. Like, and.
I get why sometimes towns decide they're gonna charge for something.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
We
yeah.
don't, well, you probably more than anybody, but we probably don't get the volume of that as some towns go
No.
in there and, I want
Right.
this and I want that, and
Yeah.
at least if you give, if they have to hand you some money, they think a little twice about it, that's all.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
So
point.
how do you make it
91A
fair?
is important, but at the same time, if it doesn't have to be printed, and it doesn't have to cost the town money to give them the information, then it's easier and better for everyone. Because we're not killing trees, we're just using electrons.
we're not killing, nothing wrong with killing trees, they grow back.
It's wrong to kill them for no good reason, just some random printing.
Paper.
But
Don't
yes,
paper. Yeah, no, I think that, but do we put a limit of some sort?
Again, and I don't have this power hungry thing, but I think we can use our good discretion
Okay.
if someone should be charged or not.
I just don't know how we,
But I mean, I've witnessed.
how or where should we put that so that some taxpayer doesn't come and say, well, you should have charged these people and so my taxes are higher now.
Or what I'd be more worried about is Joe Schmo came in and that day you felt like, yeah.
And
And
the
the
next
next
day, I
day.
didn't, yeah.
Because let's all agree that happens.
Well, maybe we should put something in our fee schedule.
Mhm.
Like a limit of some
Like
kind.
a certain
'Cause
amount of.
I would never
copies.
want to be that town. I mean, there's some towns you go to and they're,
Oh, I know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
they're not, they're
I've
not.
worked for them, yeah.
Right, it's,
Yeah.
you want, that's not what I, as a selectman, would never want you to say, well, you gotta do this and, you know, and not work with somebody especially
Well,
like you said, a
and-
resident.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I was looking at places in a town nearby before I moved here, you know, documents like your housing documents, deed, et cetera, are public record, but things that go alongside that, like septic plans and so on in most towns that are kept with those files, you can go down to the town hall and request access to them, and they'll give them to you. They don't give you a copy. They
Right.
let you look at it in the room, and if you want to go use the copier, you can pay the however
Right.
much to copy it.
Right.
Or you can, you know, like I did, snap some photos with a tablet or phone or whatever. And that's perfectly reasonable, so maybe we don't even waive the fees, and like, as much of a pain as that can be, but, I mean, I think it's different. See, I want to allow waiving of it though, especially for things like, hey, I want to know what this upcoming ordinance is, or what the documents are that are being looked at tonight.
Sort of, once again, it comes down to what Dana said, that's why we have
Yeah.
discretion.
Mhm.
Well, leave it alone. I worry sometimes when maybe not so nice people with good discretion could end up in your position.
Well,
That's
maybe we-
but that's okay. Well, I'm
Well,
with you.
hopefully
It's a
future
hard-
select
yeah.
boards don't hire one of those people.
Right, right. That's true.
Hope.
That's
I
true.
got in trouble one time because someone wanted a copy of their property card, and I copied and I didn't charge them, and I was supposed to, and I said, well, he was there or something, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to charge someone for their own property card.
Right, right.
Um,
Or then you might
But I
have.
was told,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, the powers that be, but I just think that, especially a town like Webster, it's too rigid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I just just try to
And-
treat
and we
everybody as
don't-
fair as possible. That's
I mean,
all.
if we had the same person, if Marlo came in every single day and you want,
Right.
I want everyone's property card on Call Road,
Right.
and then the next day you want everything on Battle Street, I mean, obviously.
We'll figure
Yeah.
that out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I do, of course, it's no.
Well, that's a bad example.
Yeah, I know.
And it also comes down, we have to make the records available, and they're all available on the town's website. So-
That really helps
Mhm.
a lot with that.
I know what a big change.
Yeah.
Cuts
Can you
down-
imagine?
cuts down
And that's
the-
probably where this all came from back
Yeah.
in the day.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Because
yeah.
even as us, like what we do, you might go in and say, "Hey, I want to contact everybody that has."
Well,
a,
minutes were a
Yeah.
physical document, they weren't
Yeah.
put out someplace,
That's why there's a hole in the wall between Russ and my office, because the printer there was a computer in
Right.
the other office.
Right, and you can
and
pull things
could-
up.
You could pull things up and print them, but they would
Mhm.
print in the other office, so
Mhm.
Therese probably would go get the copy and
Yeah.
charge them for the thing.
Oh, that
So-
makes sense.
So do we just rescind this because it's 91A?
I would.
All right.
I think.
I like making policies simpler.
Oh, all day long. Yeah.
Okay, the last
If they
one.
wanted us to be big rule people,
Mm.
wrong group.
The last one presented to us for today is reasonable accommodation for individuals with disabilities. This was adopted in 2018, so somewhat more recent. It's saying that it's, in accordance with ADA and thus RSA 354A. We prohibit discrimination in hiring and other conditions for physical and mental disabilities. Isn't this part of the personnel policy for like hiring and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yep.
So, as you're dealing with the employee personnel policy and the committee there, my question would be, do you want to try to condense everything into a personnel policy? Because I know it's got like random stuff like email and phones and stuff in it too. Or do you want to split them out to smaller, easier to find topical policies?
Well, I think that will be up to the committee, what they decide that they think is the best method. I would think that you'd want it as clear as possible, so maybe breaking it up and making it clearer and
Mhm.
not include it in some other
I mean, because, for
section.
example, phones and email and
Yes.
network and stuff is not even just employees, that's also,
Sure.
elected folks,
Yeah.
so.
And, you know, for this policy, I mean, it's the law, you know,
Yeah.
and it's certainly, and we do have it, it kind of like groups the, I read this as a person with disabilities coming to the office to do some business, or someone applying for a job, I mean,
Mhm.
and then you get, you get to the last of it where it says you may decline to provide accommodations, and I can't see myself saying to someone, well, under the law, you don't qualify.
Well, there again, there must be a reason this came up with it, but I can't see that this isn't something that's already there.
You know, I mean.
Isn't this
Yeah.
kind of a times two here?
And this is a project, as you know, we're working on with the, getting the building up to
Right.
ADA compliant, so.
I don't see this to be necessary.
I could see that there is some sort of disabilities policy that comes out of the employee personnel policy
Right.
review, but I don't, knowing that that sort of stuff is in there, the only thing that I could see that this could address that employee personnel policy couldn't, but this doesn't really seem to address, is access to buildings. And so maybe it's worth some sort of, but I mean, that's basically ADA, so.
Maybe you should just leave this as it is until the personnel policy is completed. And that way, maybe we have a better idea of where we're going.
And, I would, maybe there's some good reason for basically going along with the ADA and RSA and saying that the policy is, should any of them change, changes will be adopted or put into place within
Yeah.
X amount of time, etc. But, like, that's the best I can think of as to why this would exist.
I guess, I know that these all came from, I don't mean to be light with them, but there's a reason they
Mhm.
came.
Right, but
And
there
I
again,
realize that.
this, we have certain things you gotta follow anyways.
Right. So,
Once
yeah.
anywhere you go.
I guess we should note that we think it could be rescinded and probably will once the personnel policy has gone through, because they are duplicate sections, but we're not gonna change anything or reaffirm it at this point in time.
Fair enough.
All right. So that is our list.
Oh, I have selling of properties.
Well, I added that in case you wanted to
Oh.
talk about that, selling of town property.
Okay.
And
Because I know we had discussed doing the similar thing with the last line.
yeah,
Um,
I'll be with my company.
No, I did it all before. Well, that romance, you shed the tie.
My neck was bothering me,
Somebody had a strange hold.
and I said, that must be it.
Somebody had a strong hold on you?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was, what do they call that when you do it by telepathy? You, I think it is. I did this all before you.
there it is, vacant. don't really see anything that has to change. The only thing that might be, that I, as a generic taxpayer, might suggest changing would be paragraph 2 about vacant Pillsbury Lake properties. And I'll wait for Dana to come back. So the only thing that I can see here besides the,
The last line.
must have a vote and reason in the last line is for paragraph 2. And I'd be interested to hear commentary from everybody on this. But as a taxpayer, paragraph 2, which is about vacant Pillsbury lot property, I'll just read it, it's short. Vacant Pillsbury lot properties shall be offered to abutting property owners first with the condition that the two properties be merged. These lots are to be sold to the highest responsible bidder and must cover all transfer costs. As a generic taxpayer, I wish that that was an open bid so that bids could be higher than just two neighbors saying, well, I'm not gonna bid a whole lot more. You've only got two options most of the time for that. But at the same time, the reason that that's there is because they wanted larger properties because it's so small already. And maybe a better way financially, but also to do the same thing, is to say that highest responsible bidder would win, but in the event of even bids, an abutter would win, pursuant to joining the property. But
So, let me just say
that
what I
works a
think
lot.
you're telling me.
That works a lot better with like an auction style, because I will match that versus sealed bids where you have no idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, okay, that's what I was gonna say.
so like it makes it a challenge using sealed bids, because like you're not going to get someone to the same cent.
You're not going to, I mean, if your goal is to merge these lots, and many of them are not buildable anyway.
I would say most of them aren't anymore that are
Yeah,
left.
that's, I mean, so I'm wondering.
There's a few that we
Because of the
have,
5
but-
acre minimum?
No,
Well, that
because
doesn't apply
that's
to
not
Pillsbury.
conforming.
Right, okay.
But I don't see what, the attraction for someone,
Besides
not
the
being
butter.
a butter
Mhm.
to bid on it.
So, I mean, that's my only comment on it. I don't have a problem with it as it is, but
Can you put as long as it's not a buildable lot?
So you're saying that shall be offered to the budding property owners if the lot is not buildable or something like that, otherwise it would be an open bid.
Yeah, because I know what I know,
yeah.
because I'm with you, that's not fair.
Because if it's buildable,
Yeah, then the
Then-
neighbor could buy it and then build on it, so it kind of kills the whole.
well, no, so if it's buildable but vacant right now, the condition of that purchase is that they must merge it
Merge
with
it
their
together,
land.
that's right.
So it doesn't get built on.
Ah.
However, if it's buildable,
You said that.
then lots of other people will have much more interest in it, and we would get a lot more.
But don't
I
we
guess
have-
the question, though, boils down to,
And then we get.
does that matter because of tax deed?
Yeah, that's where I was going. I mean, I think we
And-
get into this thing with if it was a tax deeded property,
I think several
Which
of
is
ours are
what-
old enough that maybe, but
but with this
Yeah.
case that was done in, what, was it 2020, whatever.
2019.
I
We've
think the end of
updated.
2019.
Yeah, we're obligated to give
But,
the access
with,
back.
when you start including lost taxes for stuff we've had for 20 years, it adds up.
Oh, and when I calculate that, I account for
Right.
that, yeah.
But
Um,
I suppose since we set that as the minimum bid, then, is that in here for how we set the minimum?
I don't think so.
I know we said what we intended to do for
Maybe we
ours,
should-
but
maybe
Maybe
we
put that
should
in there.
put
we
that
should
in there.
probably add that.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
So yeah,
And that we're not responsible for clear title.
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, I
Is
mean,
that in there?
that's,
Does that
that's
say that
down in
somewhere?
I
there.
think it
Okay.
is in here, there's no
Yeah.
representation.
No
quality of the
representation,
title.
and it's somewhere I think it says it's a quitclaim deed, or at least it
It
used to.
should, yeah, it's not a quitclaim, it's, no, it's a release deed is what I was
Okay.
told to do. In other words, the town is just saying, if we ever had an interest in it, we don't anymore.
Mhm.
But we don't guarantee that we ever did, so don't come back to us if there's a
Yeah.
problem.
That's fine. Yeah, I guess that doesn't really matter for the Pillsbury Lake, because, I mean, anything that we would get in Pillsbury Lake at this point would be deeded.
And this, obviously, it's a difference, we've learned that it's a difference between a tax deeded property and just one that we want to sell, that we acquired in a different way.
Correct. Yeah, gifts are different than deeds.
So, but I guess as far as selling, this is I think it's unusual you're gonna sell a gift. Of course, you get it done.
Well, we've had a couple we've had a couple things in Pillsbury Lake that,
People have wanted to get.
this is
rid
at the
of
end
it.
of a paper road, it's,
I
you
can't
know,
use
up
that.
to half an acre. I can't use it, I'll never be able to use it, I don't wanna pay taxes anymore, let me give it to the town. And that has been done and accepted. So, you know, that's one of those, we should merge them all and sell it as one lot thing,
Mhm.
or offer it to the nearest neighbors, but,
And I suppose if you merge it, then you get your, at least some tax base out of it.
So, that's I think that's all fine. Obviously, it has to, to get to the sale portion, if it's a gift, there's other things we have to do, but
Mhm.
I don't think that needs to be in this policy. I do think the minimum bid portion, for anything that's tax deeded, we should probably put that in there, is how we do the minimum bid, but, yeah, that's about it.
And I would think on a gift, I mean, you'd have the option, because you're gonna have a public hearing anyway. You'd have the option of setting what price you thought you should
Yeah.
get.
Sale of non-deeded property will be determined, opening bid price of non-deeded will be determined at the time based on current markets and situations
like that,
or
yeah.
something.
Current market conditions.
You know, we could have the assessors go look at it, and by the time we have an answer back, the market conditions would be
Well, it could
very
change.
different. Oh, I didn't say that, did I?
Yes.
And not just because it's today's market.
Yeah.
So,
Hello, everybody.
got it. So, are there any other policies you wanted to, you have for us?
No, I think that's probably enough for,
I
enough
think
for
that's
now.
it.
A lot of the policies that are listed on this list that I got from Michelle, a lot of it is things about capital improvements program, the personnel policy is on there, the joint loss management committee is on there, the master plan.
Yeah, some of them are not our
Master
policies.
So they're not
Security is
really-
also not a policy.
I wouldn't necessarily consider them this type of policy. Trustee of trust fund investment policy, I think it's the trustees that set that.
Yeah, just like the library trustees set a couple different
And the
library
library,
policies.
and they updated theirs last year,
Correct.
the library
Okay.
did.
Though I remember, maybe it wasn't last year, maybe it was a different one that they did the year before or something.
Maybe that's
I
right.
remember there was something where they had actually reaffirmed it, but the document with the reaffirmation and stuff wasn't on the website, so it got called up by the auditors. So we should just make sure that we have the current version of anything on the website, if we have anything on the website.
So we don't have a lot of, you've gone through a lot of the low-hanging fruit.
Which is good.
Yeah.
We can get it into one easy to find place, and that'll be awesome.
That would be nice.
Low-hanging fruit. Can you describe
Alright.
what low-hanging fruit is?
No.
Oh my God! I wish I could use that in another time and place.
I could be in terrible trouble.
Oh, you could have fun with that.
Yeah.
The rotting apples on the ground, they're easy for anyone to pick up.
Yeah.
You know when you're
Alright.
speaking with somebody.
It depends on who you're talking to, of course.
So,
Yeah.
Sorry.
let's
That's
see.
funny, no.
Yeah, that's not gonna be for this board. So I think that covers everything that we were going to look at. Of course, not that anyone's probably watching this, but if they do,
Good afternoon.
the same note that we were making before, the school district voting and meeting is this Friday. Most of the day for voting, the meeting is, I think, 6 o'clock. And that's where the majority of your taxes get decided. And almost, I think every single one of the school board positions is contested.
Wow.
And so do you vote right at the school?
You vote at the school, it's at the high
It's
school.
not here.
You check in there, it uses the checklists and the people from the checklist of each individual town. You vote for all of the directors in all of the towns because they're all at-large positions. And so that is important. That is this Friday, the 4th.
Is that on the school website, like, to see what each candidate's got to say about themselves?
No, but someone has created a Google Doc and shared it on several Facebook groups.
Oh,
There's also not the town report, but the version, like the similar thing from the school, that's on their website. So you can get that and you'll see all of the warrant articles and the budgets and stuff there. Our next meeting is Monday, and then we have our town election on Tuesday, which is the 8th, and then our town meeting on the 12th, just a little under 2 weeks away on Saturday.
I think our meeting on the 7th will be here, because they'll be setting upstairs.
Yes, that will be down
For the
here.
voting.
Mhm. So I think that basically covers everything. Any other comments or notes that I missed?
no.
All right, I would move to close this meeting at 4:09.
Oh, I second that. I was thinking about what we were talking.
I know you're
Wow.
I know you're used to Dee doing it, but
I know.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh my, that was bad. I think